If I had an hour in a room with World Rugby's the board of World Rugby, oh my word, what we could sort out, eh?
Do you think that there is still absolute individualness in these teams, or is everyone trying to play the same way at the moment?
It feels a lot like the narrative around the England team 1 year ago, and the way I've been describing the All Black team is that I think you're 1 year behind England.
DSPN is brought to you by Novus Glass, proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. The Special Olympics New Zealand National Summer Games is in Christchurch, Otautahi, this December. Across New Zealand, Aotearoa athletes, clubs, volunteers and families are getting ready, training, supporting each other and celebrating as the flame of hope travels down the country. Text Novus to 3598 to support our athletes. That's Novus, Novus, to 3598 to support our incredible athletes at the Special Olympics in Christchurch, Otautahi this December. Notice it, Novus it.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
Goal! He's done it again, Ricky Herbert.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN, Martin Devlin, Lachlan War, and today a real treat. We've been working on this one for a while. It is somebody that I absolutely admire. If you follow rugby channels around YouTube, this one is one of the best. It's one of the most popular in the world. The man's name is Tim Cocker. It is Eggchasers Rugby, and we welcome you to our humble little podcast here called the DSPN, mate. What a pleasure.
Oh, well, your humble podcast looks a lot sharper than mine. I need to up my game, up my backdrop game.
Tim, just a little bit on anyone that doesn't actually know what you do, and just in your own words, and how long you've been doing it. I watched your Twickenham post-match the other day. You're at every single game, it seems, across Europe, be it a club game or an international game, but in your own words.
I try to get to wherever the rugby is, and I am a fan who is living the dream. So, but it all started in 2023. I'd been working as a reporter, asking the questions to the coaches and the players, giving out Man of the Match awards. You'd quite often just see that, see my hand as I ask the questions.
That's me, kids. That thing there.
Yeah, exactly. We're peas in a pod, and but then that job ended, which was like my dream job. Lost my dream job. I thought, what am I going to do? And it was my wife that had been saying for years, you should be doing YouTube. So I just fired it up, went to the World Cup, got in a camper van for 7 weeks, went round France, and that's when it took off. And it's been an absolute blast. And I am, much like you, just a rugby fan that wants to spread the gospel of our sport, and just and try and get those bits that you don't see too much. Like I want to get among the fans as much as possible, because I think our fans are the players when they open up, and the fans are the two. Like, that's the special sauce of our sport.
I totally agree, and it's like, you know, I'm a big fan of the Premier League and have been for decades. And one thing I love about it is that whole sport is geared towards the fans. You know, all the players, they constantly acknowledge their fans. I mean, without the fans, they don't have a game. And there's about 500 million rugby fans around the world. So connecting, as you say, talking to people after the game is, you know, and walking around and getting the opinions and things. We get so much cheese these days. So much of it is managed. So much of it is PR guff and schmuck and things. And so it's very real. That's what I like about the channel, mate. Keep doing that side of it.
Yeah, I intend to. And I mean, some of the best memories of doing that were actually around New Zealand games, to be honest. I went to South Africa after the World Cup final, and I had no idea about the rivalry and respect between those two countries. I knew they were rivals and the best two most decorated teams in history, but I didn't realise how deep the waters run there and how much there was that mutual respect. So I thought, I've got to go and sample a bit of that. So I went 2024 to the South Africa New Zealand games, and that was an education. That was a mind-blowing experience. It was amazing.
Look, I'm 61 years old, and so I grew up where I was old enough to be able to be standing there in the protests in 1981 and to see the geopolitical transformation of everything that's gone on, and rugby to play such a huge part. You know, hopefully we're going to get there next year for that tour, which would be a dream come true. Let's go to Twickenham then.
Oh, see you there.
And your immediate post-match after what we saw with the All Blacks in England on the weekend. And again, people, I urge you to watch this. This is just you. You're in the stand. You're in that media bit. So immediately once the whistle goes, how do you collect your thoughts and what was your immediate straightaway impression of what you'd just seen?
My immediate impression was I was thinking how I felt a year ago. And I remember the groans in the crowd a year prior when George Ford missed that drop goal that would have snuck a win against the All Blacks. And I was looking around, and I'm getting hairs on the back of my neck standing on end just thinking about it now. The noise in Twickenham on Saturday, the atmosphere, I haven't heard it like that for a long time.
Wow.
There was an extra edge because the ABs are in town. That's always a special fixture. But there was... everything was 10 decibels higher. Everyone's chest was puffed out 10% more. And it felt amazing. And that's what I wanted to kind of bottle, just kind of capture that feeling, that energy that was right there. And I'm sure for all us English folks feeling like that, I know you were feeling the reverse.
Well, yeah, gut punch. And, you've got a team that at the moment that you can definitively say it is on the rise. You can see it since the start of the year, since the Six Nations. Really clever tactics, a really strong performance, muscly performance, exciting performance, whereas we just don't feel like we've hit our straps even all year. And I know that we're big navel gazers down here, Tim, but that's also part of why the All Blacks are so good, because we've set these high standards. But can you honestly say that looking at our team, that we're a better side now than we were at the start of the year? Are we a better side now than when you saw us in Paris in 2023?
The answer to that last question is clearly no. But because I have been watching your stuff and I have been thinking, it feels very familiar. It feels a lot like the narrative around the England team 1 year ago. And the way I've been describing the All Black team is that I think you're 1 year behind England. That doesn't mean you're 1 year worse than England, or you couldn't be better on any given day, but you're 1 year behind in your rebuild. And a year ago, I was one of the few England fans, and the videos will testify to that, who was saying, no, I can see what Steve Borthwick's up to. I can see where he's going. We've got a young age profile. We've had a lot of turnover of players, and I can see us tracking well. And I do think I think similar of the All Blacks to where England were a year ago. You've had a lot of turnover of players. That takes a little bit of time to bed in. And I do think, the quality is the fundamental quality. Interesting, when I was in Chicago watching the New Zealand Ireland game, and it's unbelievable how much time they spend pre-match just doing basic skills. And the basic skills of New Zealand players are always incredible. Their rugby brains are the very best. And Scott Robertson, for the criticism he's got rightly because of the results and the performances, he is also the same coach that has put together that magic 20 minutes against Scotland, that brilliant 20 minutes against England. And so there are patches of what you can see he's trying to do. And that's where Steve Borthwick was a year ago. So I wouldn't lose heart, or I would actually think there is a route to being where you think they should be and could be.
Yeah, look, and I think we've said it many times already this year. If we could pick 20 minutes of this game and 20 minutes of that game and 15 minutes of this game and put it all together, and that's the frustrating thing, that we're not cohesive and consistent and haven't been able to put a performance like that together. But look, at times like this, the only thing you can be with your team is honest, isn't it? And you're obviously, reflecting that you were a year ago. You've got to be honest. You can't puff it up. You can't paint it up. You can't pretend what you're not. And let's look at that South African side. And you were in Paris. How damn good are they at the moment? Just if you love rugby, what they are able to do and the different ways that they're able to play. And they seem to have really lifted their game way up. I don't know. That's just what it looks like.
Yeah, and I'm watching guys like Peter Steph Toy, and I said something a few weeks ago where I said I genuinely feel, when I was in Paris, in fact, I said I genuinely feel lucky to be alive at a time when I'm watching that guy play rugby, because he is going to be someone. He's going to be someone that is talked about for generations, long after we're gone. He will be spoken of. He is that good, and there are so many players of that kind of level of quality. In exactly the same way as people. I never watched the Dan Carter, Richie McCaw All Blacks team. I'm just trying to think. I don't think I ever saw them play in person, that All Blacks team. But I can imagine people that were watching them in their pomp would have been saying exactly the same thing. And it's going to be very interesting. Where do you stand on that particular conversation, actually? The better team, if you had to pick one?
Well, I look at it just in terms of how many players in that side would have made a World 11 at the time. It's the era versus era.
See, your Man United fans coming through, they're World 15. 15.
Yeah, it's like, trying to compare tennis players from different eras or something like that. You have to look at, I suppose, just who they were playing at that time. You can't compare it to, were the teams better that South Africa, say, are playing now than they were when we were playing back then. And I just think when you look at that All Black side, especially of 2015, you go through, you could probably pick 6 or 7 of the forward pack, and then you've got Aaron Smith and Dan Carter, and you've got Nonu and Smith outside them. And Ben Smith was probably the world's best fullback at the time. So, I mean, what am I saying, 10 in that team? Can you honestly say that 10 of the South Africans at the moment would be in a World 15? Well, they've got 3 out of the 4 in terms of Rugby Player of the Year overnight, haven't they? So, look, I would love to put those two teams together, and I suppose AI might do it one day. Different styles of rugby as well. But you can only respect South Africa. It's a long-winded way of saying they're a hell of a side at the moment. They've won back-to-back World Cups, and at the moment, I've got another question for you about the Lions, but I'd say that, that they are the equal right now of what we were back then, 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's amazing is like the 2015 New Zealand team were incredible, but the next best team was some way off. What South Africa are managing to do at big moments is win during a time when there are so many very, very good teams. International rugby's never been better. And to add to that, I would say they are, with their approach, they're willing to risk losing games in order to get better. So they will make lots of changes where other teams wouldn't.
That's the crazy thing.
That wins in the end.
We can't get our head around that. And I don't want the All Blacks to get into that headspace. The All Blacks have got a different way of doing things, and not everyone can follow exactly the same philosophy on this. But when you've won back-to-back World Cups, you can be in a position where you can do that. And I'm not questioning Rassie Erasmus, who's an absolute genius at it. You've been to Paris, you went to Chicago, you've been at Twickenham. What's the best ground in Europe that you go and watch rugby played at? Or do they all have something special? Or is there one that stands out that you think if you're a rugby fan, you've got to get to this one?
Ordinarily, I would say Wales with the roof on and the male Welsh voice choir and the anthem. And particularly when Wales were really good and the game was competitive. I guess it's relevant for this weekend. But yeah, that was always, and you feel so close to it's so steep, and you feel so close to the ground, and the noise with the roof on. It's incredible. It's not the same place right now, which is sad. But at its best, Cardiff. But Paris, the show they put on, a night show in Paris with the lights show, and it's hard to beat as well. It's just in a rubbish part of town.
Oh, I totally agree. It's a nightmare getting there. When you're just saying that, I was just thinking of that weekend at the World Cup as well. The 2 quarterfinals, us against Ireland, France against South Africa. Those 2 games on back-to-back nights, and when that crowd started jumping and bouncing, that whole stand we were in was moving. It's just something that I've never felt before. It was a wild place to watch rugby.
Yeah, it is. I was in Marseille. I was following England then, but I was wishing I was in Paris. Yeah, I missed maybe the best weekend of rugby that there's ever been.
Incredible.
You were there.
Yeah, amazing. You said also when you're in the post-match Twickenham, and one thing that really stuck in my mind was the physicality, the hits, and hearing them when you're that close, because you're outdoors in there where the media thing is, like you are at that Paris stadium, and we get given great seats when we're in the media tosses, ladies and gentlemen. We get given really good seats, and just being able to hear, and it adds another full dimension, doesn't it, to what you're watching on the field when you can. That physicality is that real.
These guys are monsters, and I say anyone that steps onto a rugby field at any level always commands my respect, because you have to be brave to do it. You have to be brave to do it. But these guys are on another level. The specimens out there now, it's frightening. And then you stand next to them, some of them in the little mix zone when you go and do your interviews, and some of them there's nothing of them. And those are the guys I just have massive admiration for. When you've got a guy like Cheslin Colby who just goes and mixes it with some of those mutants.
Tim, when you're watching at the moment, one of the great things about rugby over the years is I think that different teams had different styles. The All Blacks always played a different style. England, we always used to accuse England of being these big lumbering forwards playing their way. South Africa had their way of playing. Has that all morphed together, do you think, or do you think that there is still absolute individualness in these teams, or is everyone trying to play the same way at the moment?
Yeah, there's definitely Yeah, there's definitely elements that have developed, which is as a consequence of the laws, as I see it. You still know when the All Blacks are at their best. You know how you can picture how they're playing when they're at their best. You know, not breaking stride at full pace, and the ball's just going edge to edge with those amazing skills, scoring tries from deep. But yeah, the laws that World Rugby, who keep tinkering, that's probably my biggest bugbear, is just leave it alone, and the coaches and the players will work it out. The times when they were going, oh, it's too boring, we need to make it more interesting. No, they'll work it out. There's always a reaction, and it's like a evolution with rugby. But the laws, and actually it really hurt the All Blacks, and one of the reasons why I would maybe take it a bit easy on Scott Robertson, he seems to be taking a bit of time to adjust to the escort or the fact you have to let the guy kicking it get to the capture, which plays into the strengths of England and into the strengths of South Africa. So it just means that England and South Africa have been able to dial up their superpowers a little bit, and it actually means there's a period of adjustment needed while other countries like New Zealand, France, get used to how they combat that.
It's and Mix is he spells it out as well. It's become a set piece now, hasn't it? Lineouts, kickoffs, scrums, aerial possession. It's now that much a part of the game.
Yeah, and it's almost not worth having possession sometimes, which is where we were maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
And then that changed a bit. 2019 World Cup, South Africa won by just having an incredible defence and actually saying, we don't want the ball, you have it, and we'll make you make mistakes in your own third and then punish you when you're tired at the end of a game. And it's back to that a little bit now, I think. And I think that's a big part of why England have had a bit of a resurgence, because we have players that can do that. We have just wild dogs of back row players who will just run all day long and chase kicks like a ball in the park.
Watching it and sitting there, that game, when the TMO comes in, what is your initial reaction to this, and how does the crowd react to it? How does what kind of sense do you get that people know what's going on? Because that's one of the frustrations I feel, that World Rugby need to jump on the NFL bandwagon and explain to people, especially in the ground, what the hell is happening here, what is going on, what the decision is. Make it nice and clear. It's one thing that when you're at a game you don't actually get enough of.
Yeah, but another thing, like with the football VAR, I noticed it because the George Ford try, which I thought should have stood. I didn't think Cody Taylor should have got a yellow card.
Same.
I thought George Ford's try should have stood. But you almost don't want to fully celebrate now, because you're like, I'm just going to wait until... Yeah. So you almost lose a bit of the joy of the moment, which is a shame. But again, I know they're bringing in they've brought in the microphone over the tannoy for the referee, but it's clunky, and yeah, like I say, TMOs getting involved when they've no business getting involved. We can all accept the odd thing gets missed. You could find a penalty at every single breakdown. You could probably find 3. We accept that some stuff will get missed. So they just need to take a back seat a little bit.
Are you able to go to these games and watch them with a kind of a neutral perspective? I mean, does the fan in you still come out?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it absolutely does. But I try to. Yeah, it's like two parts of my brain at the same time. Try and be impartial, and you've got to try and live in the moment a little bit. I'm lucky. I feel so lucky to be there. The 10-year-old me can't believe I'm sat there in the first place. So I feel very, very lucky and privileged to be there. So I'm going to enjoy it when I'm there. And I especially like at the weekend, I absolutely loved it. And almost I was really happy to be able to do the full-time chat, but there was a bit of me that wanted to just, I want to get out there in the car park and go and soak this up with all the rest of the fans.
That's one of the things when you're working at games, people, and I just want to point this out. I mean, not a moan at all. I mean, it's a real privilege to be at, but it's a different experience when you're working at these games. You've got business to take care of. You've got a channel that is just, it needs fuel, and that fuel is you with your camera and your microphone, and you can't, you can't just decide, okay, well, this game here, I'm England have won, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to neck a few pints with everyone else. You can't do that.
Yeah, and also you have to. You are in the back of your mind. I can never watch. You're probably the same. I can never watch rugby fully as I used to as a fan. I can never fully
understand
because it's always ticking back here. Oh, I need to remember that. Yeah. Make a note of that. I need to think about that.
Down,
what's the narrative? What's the theme of this game? What's the story of this match? I'm always sort of analysing it in those terms. But hey, well, I wouldn't change it.
Is it true you've got the French rugby rights?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that come about?
So I absolutely love Courtney Lawes is one of my favourite rugby players ever. He went over to play at a French second division at a time when Owen Farrell had gone to play in France, Henry Arundel, Joe Marchant, a load of England players, Manu Tuolangi, all went to play in France, the biggest and best domestic league in the world by a mile, in my humble opinion. And the French second division gets crowds of... There was 30,000 sellout in one of the games
Good
on
Lord.
Sunday night that we broadcast. 30,000 people at a second division match, total sellout. And Mako Vunipola was playing in that game, and there was nowhere to watch this. So I don't know. I just sort of thought, well, that's not right. So anyway, I knew someone who knew Joe Worsley, and they connected me and him. Joe Worsley, England World Cup winner, former flanker, and he's a coach in France with Perpignan, and has been he's fully Frenchified. He's been living there for years, and we just went and doorstepped the chairman of the league at the Champions Cup final in 2023 between Toulouse and Leinster. We just went and found him and doorstepped him and said, we want to make sure people can watch this. And that was it. So it's the only professional men's rugby that anyone in the UK can watch for free.
Brilliant.
Which is nuts.
Absolutely brilliant. All right, so I got some quick fire questions for you. Would the South African team right now, at their peak, beat the Lions side who played in Australia at their peak? After watching what you've seen this year.
Oh, this year, yes. Yeah.
South Africa would beat the Lions.
No. Yeah, so the Lions team of this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, comfortably. Yeah.
Comfortably.
Yeah. Australia nearly beat them. Australia should have beaten them. If Joe Schmidt had rolled the dice a little bit on his selection and put Will Skelton in for that first test, I think they probably would have beaten them.
Did they get out of second gear though, Tim? I mean, I know that they talked themselves up for being the greatest Lions side ever. Bollocks to that. The 74 side that went to South Africa and won every game apart from one and drew one. The one that came here and beat us in 71. I mean, these sides, legendary sides. I mean, beating Australia in Australia is an achievement, but it's not the same. But did they get out of second gear, that Lions side? Did they need to?
Perhaps. It's hard to judge it now. I actually thought what year was it? 2017. The side that got a series draw in New Zealand, I thought was better than this Lions team.
There you go.
I thought that was an amazing achievement.
Yeah. I mean, they came here, remember, and that I think we'd lost to Ireland at the end of 2016, but we'd won every other test that year. We'd just won the World Cup in 2015. We'd beaten South Africa 57 points, and so yeah. Out of the World Player of the Year nominees that have happened overnight, so you've got Ox, you've got Marks, you've got Dutoy, and you've got Bielaberi, and I hope I pronounced that right. He was outstanding, of course, for France in the Six Nations. Who wins that? I'll tell you who I think. I think Malcolm Marks should get it this year.
Well, here's one thing, Martin. I've got to ask you about this because I think the criteria has changed this year to previous years.
Okay.
And I know that from looking at the Breakthrough Player of the Year where Joseph Sualii's been nominated.
Yeah,
but he made his debut last year.
Yeah. I thought that was strange.
Which makes me... and I think what it is now is it's from last November and it doesn't include this November. And if that's the criteria, which I don't know, but I think it is now, I want to get some clarity on this. But if that is the criteria, I go for Louis Bielbiere. Because in that period, if it's just 2025, then actually I think I might agree with you. I think I might agree with you if it was just 2025. Although any of those three South Africans, they've all been amazing. But if it's last November and doesn't include this November, Louis Bielbiere in that time played 8 games, scored 12 tries,
there you go.
Scored in every match he played in, including tries against New Zealand, Argentina, 2 against England, 2 against Ireland, scored against Scotland. He was by a mile the best player in the Six Nations, and he was incredible last November. So I'd probably give it to him.
I don't get how World Rugby do this. It's like now we're getting a draw for a World Cup on December the 3rd. I don't understand why we can't play the Nations Cup next year and then do the draw, because even at the end of that, you've got another 10 months till it kicks off in October 2027. How long does it take to get this organised? I don't know. Why do you have to do it 2 years out?
I know. Just add it to the list of issues. Wow, Matt, if I had an hour in a room with World Rugby's the border World Rugby. Oh my word! What we could sort out, eh? What do you think of the Nations Championship?
I like it, and I think that I like the idea that it creates something meaningful for these matches. We're frustrated that France came down here this year and brought a development side, which I can understand them doing it. But hey, you're playing the All Blacks in New Zealand. Come on. Show some respect. Send your proper bloody team down here. And the fact that I'll just challenge you though, because this is again, it's a tough one because the top 14 is an amazing competition, but the final was the Saturday before the first test. I get it.
So they're like, what? They don't have any. They don't really have the choice.
Well, mate, how about delaying it a week then? I mean, push it back a week. Did it really matter if it was another week?
There's got to be a sensible... Yeah, I agree with you. So I think
Look, if we were sitting here, we'd probably just go, okay, well, look, let's do the Rugby World Cup draw after the Nations Cup. Everyone agree in the room? Yeah, great. I mean, I don't know how hard it is to come up with some of these things. So I like it. I think that more meaningful competition between the two hemispheres. I like the fact it's 6 against 6. But I also think that I'm just sick of the platitudes for the next tier of nations where I read again somebody from New Zealand Rugby saying yesterday, we're working hard with World Rugby to make sure that the tier 2 nations get their tournament. Well, again, how long does this take to organise, mate? When?
On that as well. So Georgia are ranked above Wales. So I understand. So the Six Nations, there's been a lot of talk up here about we should have promotion relegation from the Six Nations, get Georgia in. I understand the argument that, well, this competition's been going for 120 odd years. You don't want to mess with that. That's part of the fabric of the sport up here. So, okay, but you're bringing in a new, as you say, meaningful competition that's supposed to be the top 12 teams in the world, and yet you're excluding the 6th best ranked team in the Northern Hemisphere from it just because of why? Tradition? The same reason that they're not allowed in the Six Nations? This would have been the perfect opportunity to actually, Wales could keep their spot in the Six Nations, but Georgia have earned their place in the Nations Championship above Wales, and it's out. I think it's bang out of order that they've been excluded. And it just demonstrates that I think it's just cash in the short term, not thinking long term about where we want rugby to be in 20 years' time.
100%. And when you add to that, go back to 1991. Where a Manu Samoan side thrilled the rugby world, got through to the quarterfinal, beat Wales to get through to the quarterfinal. Well, that's 1991. So that's 34 years ago. And here they are scratching around trying to survive by drawing with Belgium to make a World Cup. Has the lot of those three countries, Tonga, Fiji are on a bit of a rise at the moment, but really, World Rugby, you've had 34 years since you told us a whole lot of stuff about how this is going to change rugby, and these teams are exactly what we need. The excitement that they bring, the physicality that they bring, the point of difference that they bring. Well, what's happened? Are they any better off 34 years later? We're still sitting here going, we're going to get a tier 2 organised. And
with the Nations Championship, Fiji's game at home to England is going to be in Cape Town.
Yeah. I know. So again, I don't know. I would love you to be in that room. Tim, I'd love you to be in that room with World Rugby and provide some common sense. We can't keep you forever, so I've got a couple of little things before we go. You mentioned before that the top 14, and this is something that, down here, we used to have Super Rugby, and we used to think it was the best, provincial or franchise competition in the world. It's clearly not now, and it irks us, and we know we've lost South Africa and everything else, and we're not sure that, we know that it doesn't provide probably the adequate preparation the All Blacks need now. But can you see a real gap between the competitions up at your end of the world and what we're playing down here?
At its best, not too much. I still think the best New Zealand teams would compete really well. But it's the week in, week out. And I think the biggest thing is, so the top 14's clearly, there's separation now. It's much better than the Premiership and the URC overall. But at the top end, it's competitive. And I think the same would be true. At the bottom end, Super Rugby's not going to cut the mustard, and it's not going to prepare test match players. And this is where one phrase that Eddie Jones used that he got so much stick for when he was England coach, he used to talk about test match animals. And there'd be players that the fans and media desperately wanted in the team, and he would use this phrase. He said, I'm picking this player because I think they're a test match animal. And I was part of the people saying, what's he on about? You just pick the best players for the club. But I actually think he might have been onto something. And I think it's going to be important to look past what you see in Super Rugby or in the Premiership up here And it's those intelligent coaches that can spot whatever it is that they think can translate to the test match arena.
Are you going to Dublin this weekend for Ireland, South Africa?
No, I've been burning the candle at both ends. I have to have a weekend at home.
Okay,
So,
I understand.
no, I wish I was, because that looks like being an absolute banger of a match this weekend.
Who wins that game?
South Africa win it, but I'm really glad Ireland have got a bit of mojo back. And I didn't realise this until this week, but it's the one city Rassie Erasmus has never won a game in.
Yeah, I know. And they've had a couple of matches now under their belt. Look, such a pleasure, as I said right at the beginning, catching up with you. And, more power to you. I know, the amount of work that goes into doing what you do, but you bring it. And it's a fantastic channel, mate. And so we're just really proud and privileged to connect with you here and get you on ours as well. All the thanks comes from this end.
Oh, feelings mutual. So let's do it again.
Huge thank you to Novus Glass for sponsoring this episode of the DSPN and for being a proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. This December, over 1,200 incredible athletes, along with hundreds of volunteers, coaches and other support staff, will be making their way to Christchurch or Tautahi for the Special Olympics New Zealand 2025 National Summer Games. Novus Glass is proud to be supporting something special, and you can help support the athletes too by texting Novus to 3598. That's Novus, Novus 3598. Thanks again, Novus Glass, for supporting us here on the DSPN. Windscreen, crack or chip, notice it, Novus it.
DSPN.